Welcome to the City of Paris Planning Commission special meeting, August 13, 2024. Hope it's cool out there because it's freezing up here. And we're going to begin this meeting at 6:05 p.m. approximately. We start with a roll call.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Here.
Commissioner Gomez,
Here.
Commissioner Lopez, Vice Chair Shively,
Present.
Chair Hammond.
Here. Thank you. And we move to item 3, the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Jimenez. Thank you very much. And no, this is not the city council, even though it says city council night. So we're not the city council. So make sure everyone knows that. Try. Okay. We move to item 4, public hearing. Be patient because I have to legally read all of this. So have mercy on me, right? The scoping meeting for an environmental impact report associated with General Plan Amendment 23-05153. Specific Plan Amendment 23-05115. Tentative Parcel Map 23-05154, TPM 38760. Development Agreement 24-05168. And Development Plan Reviews 23-00011, 24-00006, and 24-00007. Continued from the regular Planning Commission meeting on August 7, 2024. A proposal to consider the following entitlements to create a new specific plan for the new Paris specific plan to facilitate the development of 3 commercial retail buildings totaling 6,780 square feet and 8 industrial buildings totaling up to 3,681,020 square feet on 218.4 acres of the larger 345-acre in total Pacific Plan area, located south of San Jacinto Avenue, west of Dunlap Drive, and northeast of Ellis Avenue and I-215 Freeway. Number 1, General Plan Amendment to amend the circulation element to replace the planned freeway interchange at the eastern end of Ellis Avenue with a freeway overpass and to realign it with the proposed Marietta Road extension. Number 2, Specific Plan Amendment to rescind the new Paris Specific Plan and create the new Paris Commerce Center Specific Plan to act as a regulatory document for the establishment of development standards and design guidelines for the entire Specific Plan area. Number 3, Tentative Parcel Map to establish 8 parcels totaling 218.14 acres for commercial and industrial development and 1 parcel totaling 111 acres for open space conservation area. Number 4, Development Agreement for specific project improvements and community benefits. And number 5, Development Plan Reviews for the review of the site plan and building elevations for the proposed industrial and commercial components of the project. The applicant, Industrial 6 Enterprises, LLC. Requested action, conduct a public scoping meeting to review, discuss, and provide comments on the potential environmental impacts associated with the project for the preparation of an environmental impact report. Is there any ex parte communication, site visits, or ad hoc committee?
I drive by the site regularly.
I know of the site and been through the site, and there was ad hoc meetings with this.
Okay.
Likewise, very familiar with the site, drive by the site, and participated in ad hocs as well.
Yes, drive by the site, actually got very near the site. Okay. As a reminder, this is conducting a public scoping meeting, and it's emphasizing to review, discuss, and provide comments on the potential environmental impacts. We're not going to get into the aesthetics, we're not going to get into the development architecture, we're going to try not to, but we're really here to discuss the issues related to the EIR. Okay? And with that, we turn it over to the city. I think it's Mr. Matthew Evans. Okay.
Thank you, Chair Hammond, for that wonderful introduction. Make my job so much easier.
Oh, let me do this. I know we will do this later. You did receive, and I'm going to say it for you, so the record. Item 5A, we had some letters for the scoping meeting, and prior to the meeting, staff received 13 comment letters from concerned residents opposing the project, all of which are attached to this. And I think we have extra copies if you need them. Okay. Sorry.
Yes, thank you. So we'll go through the presentation quickly here. So this project is the New Paris Commerce Center Specific Plan Amendment to consider the following entitlement applications. We have, as you mentioned, a general plan amendment, a specific plan amendment, development agreement, tentative parcel map, and development plan reviews. So the purpose of the scoping meeting is to provide information on the proposed New Paris Commerce Center Specific Plan project, allow the Planning Commission, interested persons, organizations, and agencies the opportunity to comment on the preliminary assessment of the environmental issues that need to be addressed in the project-specific environmental impact report. As you mentioned, no action is required by the Planning Commission or necessary at this time. So here you have an aerial view of the project site. And here it is dashed in yellow. It's the 341-acre project site. It is located south of San Jacinto Avenue, west of the I-215 freeway, and north of Ellis Avenue. Again, that's 345 acres in total. So here you have a north view from I-15 of the project site. Here you have a view from the south. This is south of San Jacinto Road. And an eastern view from the I-215 freeway. So general plan and zoning. Again, you have the overall project site located here. As you can see, it's the New Paris specific plan. General plan and zoning are both specific plan. Surrounding zones, you have to the north residential 6,000 and public facility. To the south, you have public facility and the River Glen specific plan across the freeway. To the east, you have the Park West specific plan, which is comprised of open space and medium density residential. And to the west, you have, beyond the 215 freeway, you have community commercial and light industrial. So here is your overall site plan of the North Campus. And then you have the proposed land use plan and the phasing of the project. Phase 1A, 1B, and then you have your sub areas 2, 3, and 4, as well as the open space area. Conceptual landscape plan. This kind of gives you a better idea of what that commercial site plan looks like on the corner of Murrieta Road and San Jacinto Avenue. And then as far as the truck route is concerned, you have 2 truck routes proposed here. You have an ultimate truck route, which is in red, and then a proposed interim truck route that is in yellow. Conceptual elevations, these are for building 4 only. This is the building that parallels the 215 freeway. So you have the north elevation. This is what it would look like from that Murrieta Road extension. Then you have a south elevation from the 215 freeway, southwest elevation from the 215 freeway, and then a western elevation. So that concludes my presentation. And so I will now turn it over to the applicant's consultant to go over the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Candace Burnett, and I'm here with Kimberly Horn representing
Do me,
the
do me a favor and
proposal.
spell your last name for us. Just
Burnett, B-U-R-N-E-T-T.
there you go.
So tonight we are here for the public scoping meeting. It's part of the notice of preparation that was released for the project, and it's part of the environmental process for the California Environmental Quality Act, or otherwise known as CEQA. And it's part of the process in which we give the public the disclosure that we're preparing an environmental impact report for the project. The purpose of CEQA is really just that, is to give disclosure to the public, decision makers, and other agencies that may be interested in the project, that not only are we preparing an environmental impact report for the project, but to give the opportunity to provide comment and input on what should be studied in the EIR. It's also a way for the public to provide input in the potential identified impacts, the technical analysis, and then to participate in the process as we go through the project entitlements. And so the environmental process that will take place as part of this project through the EIR is to prepare the EIR and technical analysis. And as part of that CEQA process, we will also identify potential mitigation measures that would be identified as part of the analysis to reduce potential impacts, but also to identify potential feasible alternatives as part of the project's analysis as well. The other important point to note out is that this process is a way for us to gain interagency coordination as well as government agency coordination with not only the decision makers but other responsible agencies throughout the process. And then, of course, it's always a way for us to interact with the public at large and also the citizens as part of this engagement process. So tonight, this is the public scoping process as part of the notice of preparation. It's a way for us first to give notice that we are preparing the NOP, and it's our first opportunity to engage the public in the process. So tonight, what we're doing is we're asking the public to provide comments on the EIR, what should be studied and analyzed, what potential impacts we should look at and analyze, but it's not to look at the merits of the project itself, just really to what we should be studying in the EIR. So we prepared a notice of preparation, or an NOP. It was posted on July 26th, and it'll run through August 26th, in which the community, decision makers, and agencies have an opportunity to provide us comments on what should be studied and analyzed in the EIR. And it's also an opportunity to inform the community and the public in ways to engage us and also the decision makers in the process. So tonight is the notice of preparation and scoping meeting. There are other future opportunities to participate in this process. There will be the preparation of the draft that will follow, the draft EIR, which will follow tonight's meeting, in which we'll take that information that we receive. We'll look at those different constraints, opportunities as part of the technical analysis, any potential impacts to be analyzed in the EIR, and that will be prepared in that draft EIR, in which will be circulated to the public for a 45-day review process. After that 45-day review, it'll be another opportunity to provide comments, in which we will then respond to those comments in the final EIR or response to comments, and that will be another opportunity to engage the public. There will be a final circulation of that final EIR as well, and then it'll come forward back to the Planning Commission and then ultimately the City Council for review and approval or decision-making. The topics to be further analyzed in the EIR are all the topical areas as presented in the CEQA guidelines. There are actually 20 guidelines. Not all of them are listed here, but this is just a sampling of those topic areas that will be addressed as part of the EIR, but all 20 topic areas will be addressed in our EIR. And so not all of them will have technical analysis that will support it, but will be analyzed thoroughly through all of either your land use and development code standards and or other criteria as required by CEQA. Other topics will include cumulative impacts analysis, in which we'll analyze other projects that may potentially impact the project because they're within a certain radius around the project, or could be create impacts based on the future growth of those impacts. Additionally, we will look at alternatives to the project as required under CEQA. CEQA requires us to look at a reasonable range of alternatives. And so we will identify that reasonable range, including alternatives like a no project alternative, and also alternatives based on a best range of those reasonable number of responses. So as we discussed before, there is a schedule for the next steps. Generally, tonight is the first kind of step in that process in which we are here at the public scoping meeting. Next steps would be the draft of the EIR based on the comments received tonight, with opportunities to provide public input and comment throughout the next steps of the process, which would be the draft EIR. If there's comments beyond tonight, in which we will be receiving the public comments, you can also submit those comments in writing to the staff planner, which is Matthew Evans. In fact, we would prefer to receive comments in writing because they're easier to make sure that we've captured those comments and anticipated or actually interpreted those comments correctly as part of the EIR process. And those can actually be received by the staff person in writing and then provided directly interpreted into the document. And so that is our contact here. And at this point, we'd like to take in any comments from not only the commission, but then ultimately the public at large.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would stay close.
Thank you.
And if now the applicant would like to make a presentation at this point in time, you feel free to just state your full name. This is routine. And spell your last name for us.
Hello, Kathy Hoffer, Hoffer. And I don't have a presentation, but we are here to listen and take copious notes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. As part of our regular routine, we will have staff and applicant answer questions, so you can do either. But now's the time because, to not get into the architecture. But we have all the issues that are related to the EIR, and now it's your chance. I should say, speak now, forever hold your peace. So whoever wants to start, because I've got a few myself.
Okay, thank you. Since Isaac isn't here, I guess I'll take the lead today. First of all, I'd like to thank the applicant for agreeing to have continued this item. I understand it was a big decision. Everyone had to move their schedule, but you in part did agree to have the members of the public attend and be able to express their opinions on this project, which is first and foremost, so we really appreciate that. When specifically for this project, when you presented, I think this is for staff, for the applicant, when it presents reasonable range of alternatives, can you give us a little more background into what that would mean for this specific project? Whoever would have the answer to this, possibly you. It's fine, thank you.
Sure. So we look at a reasonable range of alternatives, meaning depending on the land use type, we look at if it's a reduced project scope, if whatever makes sense in terms of the adequate analysis and for the project. So it could depend on the land use type, or it could depend on, since this is a rezone, what makes sense in terms of if it's looking at reducing like a percentage of that land use for that type of land use. So it just depends. And so what we do is we look at, depending on the technical analysis that's prepared for the EIR, if there is something that would potentially reduce the impact, and we'll look at what may be reasonable in terms of reducing the scope of that project that would reduce those impacts for that range. But one of them always is a no impact, no project impact or an alternative sites analysis. Those are always usually the first two we look at. And then we always try and do 2 to 3 others in terms of alternatives for the site.
I remember there was an EIR presented back in 1989.
That's old.
How long does that last and when does that expire?
Well, the EIR doesn't necessarily expire, but there's changes in laws for CEQA, so it depends on what's being proposed.
Okay.
And so you would really have to look at the analysis that was prepared as part of that EIR, and they did determine if the technical analysis needs to be updated as part of the analysis and/or how that EIR is being used.
Okay.
Before you go on, I'm going to make sure we're all on the same page. We have several different pages here, and there's one that's the full build-out with 8 warehouses, and that's what so we want to make sure we're looking at the one that shows 8 different warehouses, because we have different different versions, and this is the full build-out, and this is what we're talking about when we read the original. So we're on that, at least look at that page, there's 8 there, and then there's 3 retail buildings. So I just want to make sure we're on the same page, so when they do it, we're focused on.
the open space.
Yeah, it's a little bit different with 8, okay.
Okay.
I think it's,
It's
Yeah, I
7
think
buildings
that's
and
it.
then
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, no, you're right. Huh, caught it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for pointing
Okay.
that out.
yeah.
That's it for me for now, thank you.
Okay. In looking at the impacts, I think I would like a focus on the recreation aspect of the already existing surrounding parks, as well as losing the golf course area, as well as the research and development area. Also, I'm looking at the greenhouse air quality effects with just this development versus something where it's not built out, smaller buildings. I'm thinking, the only thing that comes to mind, because I was talking to my friends today, is Northrop, like something that is more, engineers work there, there's development, there's research, and not so much a lot of big vehicles going in and out. I'm thinking about land use and planning and the original plans that we had. So doing a comparable of what it was intended for. So when we're looking at the office and commercial area, even within each of the zones, like 10 zones that are in here, within that area, multiple alternatives to each one. So like when we look at number 11, which was originally office and commercial, having maybe 2 or 3 options. What if it was all commercial? What if it was all office buildings? Because those are 2 viable uses for that space. I'm thinking noise impact and the surrounding areas. I have a lot. Do I want to give somebody else a chance? Okay, so should I keep going or should I give somebody else a chance? Keep going? Okay. I'm looking at public services and access to responding. I know there's a park right up north, I think, where they play softball, baseball, and the skydive thing. So, so responding to emergencies for our public services departments to those areas where we know there's kids playing, there's a potential for higher injuries. I'm thinking about transportation. Is that an existing truck route as of now, the red dotted one? Or would that also have to be added? Thank you. Because there's the interim one, that one. There's the interim and then there's a ultimate.
The existing truck route is along San Jacinto Avenue. The red one is the ultimate with a realignment for the general plan amendment with the overpass alignment.
Okay, so there's not an existing truck route right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think looking at that too, the transportation wear and tear on the streets, the impact on the asphalt, the different conditions. I'm thinking about the land use and planning. It was originally created with certain land use, certain planning, especially when we're looking at a lot of the greenery, if it was to be a golf course, the housing, the residential development, the hotel development, impact on recreation to the city and access to the recreation within the city. Population and housing, because we would be losing, and I know that California has a movement towards having more access to housing, so we would be losing, how much is that? Where's the housing? I had it right now. 25 acres of housing and the impact on that within the city. Air quality with receptive points, especially like that park, the housing. And I think that's it for now. I'll give everybody else a chance because I could sit here for hours.
Just for a future, if it's possible to change the colors of Figure 13, you have 3 shades of blue, and it's somewhat hard to distinguish between the 3 shades and whether the retail or a potential office or warehouse. That would be great on Figure 13. One of the questions I do have is on the truck route. We have the interim truck route, what is considered to be interim, and then understanding what the impact is going to be off of Highway 74 as you come up Chase, northbound on Chase Road, and how does it intersect with, the railroad, the freight train areas, and Metrolink? How does it commingle in that one intersection? And then as well as what's the impact with the existing warehouses space north of Ellis? And then what's the impact of the overpass for the truck route? And then again, as it interacts with the egress, at least for the interim road, truck route, what are the problems that occur, what the truck route is going to be the impact on the residences on the north side, and what is the impact of the area where we have the retail space? Is it possible to review the actual size of the retail center or the retail portion to be able to accommodate more shopping for the adjacent residents and community, being that it's next to the baseball fields, those impacts. And then how is the retention pond going to impact the reserve land that's just eastbound of the San Jacinto River? If we can have those items reviewed, that'd be good.
Okay, I'm just going to try to compartmentalize, and obviously my colleagues can add on to it. I'm never easy, so. This is more, I'm going to deal more with the alternatives. Obviously, I'm not going to comment on aspects of the project itself. This is going to be real easy. The original one that we proposed, existing new Paris plan from 1989, I would like that to be reviewed in conjunction with this. Why? Because you're talking about passenger vehicles as opposed to trucks. It's going to be a humongous difference. 2, they didn't discuss, but I'm going to discuss it. The projects to the east are multifamily housing. Sensitive receptors would have to be looked at from 8 industrial buildings to a proximity of whatever is required. Mr. Brown sitting out there. in terms of distances from housing or potential housing. So that's a cumulative issue. So what would that impact be with 8 industrial buildings and multifamily housings to the north and to the east? Okay? So the original plan, what would that mean? Forget about 1989. That's even before I was here. Hard to believe, 1 year. But looking at each one of those in terms of passenger vehicles, commercial, how that would be, passenger vehicles would be there. Number 3, the proposed intersection change is not a reality in current life. You're talking Caltrans, you're talking that. It's not going to happen next few years. I don't care what anybody says. If you haven't dealt with Caltrans, it's not going to happen soon. So that's a major issue. So you're going to have to measure that interchange, and you're looping streets to have trucks go down to proposed street. That truck route is going through this proposed area to turn around and go back. So that is, with or without that intersection would have to be studied, because now we create issues on the freeway. Okay. Thirdly, or fourthly, the issues of San Jacinto, which is not a truck route, I believe it is. If it is, correct me. San Jacinto would have to be that interim truck route. Now you have another measurement because trucks are going down there. You have DPS office to the north. I'm down there a lot in that area. You also have housing to the northeast, proposed housing to the east, proposed housing to north of there because that other project, Coffin Way, goes all the way down. So there's a lot of residential here in this area. You'd have to look at that impact of trucks from 8 different buildings. And I'm not saying good or bad, I'm just saying that is something I want to make sure is addressed because we can't just water over that one. That's a lot. The retail that's there is very small and significant, but then you have passengers who are going to be intermingling with trucks because there's no other way to get in because that Murrieta Road could be extended, but that freeway is not going to get done soon. What do you do there? So you're going to have intermingling trucks going with traffic there. How many truck traffic routes? What kind of, the size of the building determines based on the study, the transportation things, versus passenger vehicles. So that is one of the things I want to make sure is really stipulated in there because it's going to be a big difference. And that's just from previous projects that over the 22 years I've been here. All of them have to deal with the difference between cars and difference between trucks. So that's one of those things that I think need to be looked at. She mentioned land use planning, that's perfect. She mentioned transportation. And even if at the time, I don't know if the MHS existed, that MHSC, I forget the title, I don't even think it existed in 1989. But now you've got that area as consideration, but the open space would have been the golf course. So these are considerations why I want to look at that whole original plan and look at that in conjunction as an alternative to this current plan. And there's going to be differences in terms of the number of vehicles and trucks. We don't even know, we're talking about doing it in phases, but we don't even know what kind of buildings. We don't know. This is 4 million square feet of industrial is going to produce a certain amount of vehicle traffic and also going to have passenger vehicles with that. So what is that? Since the receptors are 1,000 feet, 300 feet away, to the northeast is going to be homes that are right directly over there. And so, and they're talking about and I was there at that opening, that skydive park. Got to have skydived in too. But that, it should also be a sensitive receptor. So I'm just saying these are specific things, not general things, that we're saying on behalf of the community that need to be looked at. And that's a lot. To look at that original plan, which doesn't have to be perfect, but at least it was an idea from the council to say we're going to have this variety of things. But obviously it wasn't done in depth like it is now. You didn't have those kind of surveys. But now we're looking at from then to now, would that be better? Would that be worse? Only you can determine that based upon the things that I've been talking about. The impact on, obviously, San Jacinto is, as it is now, would not be it is now. So if that's a truck route or proposed truck route, that's totally different right now. It's just vehicle, passenger vehicle. So if you add a truck route, that means widening lanes, I'm presuming. So now you got to determine what that traffic and then turning in and out and going to the freeway. You got a lot of things to study would have to be looked at. And again, the whole area around it and surrounding it, especially to the east, is not industrial. It is multi-family residential for the most part that I know of. So that's, you got to look at that effect, assuming that you had the total number of humans over there. How far away would that be, and would that be significant? That you would mean significant in terms of EIR. So I think that's all I have, unless you guys have some future. I knew I'd bring up some.
So in thinking about transportation, I'm looking at the ingress and egress for each of the buildings, and it seems like there's some left turn radius for big rigs or areas where passenger and industrial vehicles would come together, commingle. Can we look at safety ratings of that and also look at that ingress, egress for each of those locations, the queuing for each of the buildings based on the size? I don't remember off the top of my head, but I know that 1.2 million square foot building. I want to measure ingress and egress at its worst potential, at a maximum usage of each of the buildings at this size. With a full employee base, are they open 24 hours? I would like to see them open at 24 hours, doing those studies as a 24-hour industry, not just 8 to 5. But I want weekends and overnight, 24 hours, open at all times at maximum capacity. Together, and just really that ingress, egress, and commingling of the passenger vehicles, and also, what is that, Marietta Road Extension?
Yes, Marietta
Okay.
Road Extension.
I need reading glasses, oh my God, I'm not getting any younger. So, at that Marietta Road Extension, that would be also like an access point, right? It's not just for those using this location, but it is a thoroughway, public way for everyone?
Correct, yeah, that would be a public roadway. And our general plan right now calls for this to be a general or a public roadway as well.
Okay, so it would be a public roadway that everybody should be able to have access to?
Yes.
Okay, I see it there. I think looking at that as well, because it wouldn't just be traffic from these locations, it would also be thoroughway traffic. If my kids were playing in the northern baseball field, I would probably want to take this street. Now, how safe would that be? How much traffic would I encounter? How many left-turning trucks in front of me would I encounter on my way?
Correct, and the traffic study would analyze all this.
At its worst potential?
Yes,
Okay, 24 hours a day?
yeah, we'll make a note of that.
Okay.
To add that to it. Typically, like you mentioned, it is peak hour studies, but we could look into a 24-hour.
Yeah, I would like to see that. And looking at that with the noise study as well, with the receptors, with the sensitive receptors at the widest range that we can request. Because if the dead of the night, noise carries very differently. So just the noise levels for the community surrounding there, overnight, on the weekends, at maximum capacity, not the minimum. And then, question for staff, I think. What happens, because this isn't a truck route, we're counting on that, Ellis? What happens if that doesn't get built?
So engineering has had a comment memo to the applicant at this point, and one of our comments was that San Jacinto Avenue, we do not prefer any type of truck traffic on San Jacinto Avenue. So with that in mind, the only type of traffic would have to be off that I-215 Ellis overcrossing. And, with that in mind, it would probably need to be built before this project.
Okay. And is that approved? Is that in the process? Is that in the works?
So yes, staff took to city council back in February a feasibility study, and this is independent of any development project. It's circulation based off our general plan. And we have a alternative that we want to go with, move forward with. And in June of 2024, we awarded a services agreement with a consultant to do the PA and ED phase for the
Okay.
design and environmental work. So it's in the works right now.
But we don't have a
as-
timeframe.
As Chairman Hammond mentioned, there's a long process with
It is a very
Caltrans and just trying to get this actually built. You're looking at several years.
Yeah. So can we look at that too, potentially using that interim alternative for 10 years? And the long-term impact on the roads, wear and tear, public services?
Absolutely. And that will be a study with the traffic study, with no build, different alternatives that the trucks and autos would be routed to. We're going to look at all of that.
Do we have when this was proposed, did we have any suggested or proposed uses or anything that came forward that we have a comparable for? For example, let me ask this. For the office commercial or the research and development, was there ever any like projected or idea of what it should look like and use at that time? We didn't have that? No? Okay.
No, we didn't have any. Maybe that's a question the applicant can
Okay.
help us answer.
Yeah, there haven't been any
Okay.
development proposals as part of the specific plan.
Okay.
In fact, there has been a specific plan amendment to remove property from the specific plan for other industrial development.
Okay, okay. Then I think that's it for now. Thank you.
In the, in the, in the design here, there's a retail space and some buildings. I have a question regarding the legend. It says potential office, that's in the light blue, shade of blue. What does that mean by potential?
So it'd be accessory office associated with any of the light industrial uses. So if it were, for instance, somebody like a architect who also had any of the printing facilities, and they used the back portion or most of the facility in the back for that printing, they could also then operate the office portion of the building and then have the back portion for more of that warehouse and manufacturing part. So it would allow an office-type use as part of it or associated with the light industrial. But you have to allow it as a use for office so that you could have a blended use, not just a warehouse or a light industrial use. So office would be like an accessory.
So these buildings are not, the proposal does not include the option for office use?
It could be primary as well.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So what it says potential, is that because they want to tie it into the building as well, or is that going to be separate? I'm just curious to see what the use is going to be.
Yeah, so the part of the development and design standards are part of what's being developed as part of the specific plan language, and that's still being negotiated as part of the development of the specific plan, which is still part of the entitlement process with staff.
Okay, because the issue that I see with not having a confirmed plan in front of us is that we can't do a complete scope meeting without having all of the details that the applicant would like to bring to the table. So I see potential as a possibility, but I don't see it as a concrete part of this project. Is it okay to assume that?
I think you're referring to the, where it says potential office, is, it's showing the offices that you would see in a warehouse. It's not an office building, if that's what
Okay,
you're
so that's the
referring to.
corner pod.
So it's the offices that you
So
normally
you're,
see in a
so
warehouse.
this, okay. I'm glad I asked the question then, because as, I guess I'm still novice to this. So these buildings here, they're not buildings.
So each of those buildings, sorry, it's small for me to see.
So is this a
Like building
magnified version
6?
of what would be inside the warehouse?
So each of these buildings actually has a dedicated space for office or mezzanine.
Here, for example?
Yeah, so the corner element usually is part of the building that it has more architectural articulation, treatments, and that's usually where the office is facilitated as part of each building.
No, I completely understand it,
Okay.
and I apologize if I didn't make it understood.
Sorry, I didn't know if you were
So
talking about
it's-
use
so
or the actually building.
Right, so I did want to know, is that's why when Chair Hammond pointed out that there were different versions of it, so to speak, he was pointing out that the buildings, so Building 5, let me see here. So why does it say Building 5?
So, so potentially, these 8 buildings can be 15, right? Because there's 15 potential office. So each of them can be well, the top three ones, building 6, 7, and 8 can't be divided. But when I'm looking at building 1, there's 3 potential offices. So it technically could be divided into 3 different businesses.
Are these alternatives or not, I guess is what I'm asking.
There is a preferred site plan in your packet. It
Yeah.
says it's labeled preferred. And that's essentially what the project is. And
Yeah.
then you have a maximum build-out, which is an alternative.
Yeah.
And then you have,
Okay.
what is it called? Secondary conceptual site plan, which is also an alternative.
And then there's a
So-
maximum buildup.
And
Can
there's
I-
the maximum build-out, which is an alternative.
So-
So the preferred site plan is the one that has the commercial area enlarged on the side.
The 1A?
Yes.
Okay.
And to your point, Commissioner Gomez, yes, the applicant can come forward and speak, but the buildings could be divided into 2 or more. But the offices, areas that you see inside the warehouse building are the office areas that you would need in a warehouse.
Right. So,
There is no real office building in itself.
No, there's no office building proposed.
okay. So I'm glad I asked that question because I'm sure members of the public also see it, what I saw. And being up here for over 3 years, you would think you'd know it all, but this is new. Yeah, learning every day. Okay, so the preferred, number 11 is the preferred that the applicant would like, right, preferred. And figure 13 would be the maximum build out, not sure what the worst case is for. It has to be broken up. Okay.
I wanted to show you but
Thank you,
I
Patricia.
can't switch the exhibit, I'm sorry.
On these, it's a little bit easier to see. So like building 6 has one here. This one has 3, like the little extending, there's a tiny little difference in shade. So there's 15 office buildings within the 8. 15
Commissioner-
offices, so potentially these 8 buildings could be broken out into 15 different businesses.
Go ahead,
What
Patricia,
you
I
have in
think.
front of you is the preferred design, site plan design. Oops. That's an alternative, that's the maximum build-out, which will be analyzed as an alternative.
But it says building 6, building 7, building 8. They're not buildings within buildings, right? They're actual
They're
separate buildings.
They're separate buildings, yes.
They're not business, okay, because it says potential office. Okay, okay. So I'm glad I'm getting clarification because I was, honestly, I wish it would have been worded a little better so I wouldn't be so confused.
And we apologize for the confusion, but I'm glad you're asking the questions. That's what we're here for.
Thank you,
You're
Patricia.
welcome.
Patricia, before you sit down, can you put up the current zoning map?
Is that the one you're referring to? Okay.
Oh, do you have a question? Oh, okay. While he's, I don't want, go for it when you get it.
No, go ahead.
I think that part I think is pretty specific from us. I think also Murrieta Road, to look at that Murrieta Road and how that's going to be impacted. Because if you don't have that freeway interchange, then we're going to have an issue that you're going to have to address what to do with San Jacinto. So the Murrieta Road is really actually a good road, but you're going to have a turnaround or cutoff point. Now you have trucks, there's nowhere to go, so it's all going to be trucks, literally. So that has to be measured. With passenger vehicles intermingling with, so they are going to park at each one of these. All this has to be looked at. And we're just making sure because it's on the record. And it's just saying this for fun. I'm just saying it's record. I'm glad he brought it up, and whenever you get your point, let's just start talking. Because the eastern portion talks about multifamily housing. So that's why it's such an important consideration. and to look at that in terms of what potential, we don't, no idea what they may propose, but that potential there has got to looked at in terms of all these buildings. And I'm going by the built out to the max. I don't care about the other. This is the potential build out. And on the sheet that I read, it says 8. So I'm going by the legal sheet I just read. So I'm looking at that page only. So there's going to be some things that have to be looked at. If a lot of this has to do with if that intersection is built, so if that has to be built first, that's another impact. But if there's not, then there's going to be another impact. So we've got some alternatives. When they say alternative, they're only saying this 8 buildings and 6. That really is not really alternatives. I think the ones we mentioned are some serious alternatives we're going to have to look at. And understanding 89, some things might be moderate, but I still want to look at the 89 plan. Each one of those in conjunction with this, cars versus trucks, vehicle traffic, vehicle VMTs, things like that. So that is going to be a real detailed plan. And that from that point on, then we can make decisions. But you got to have a base to compare to, not 6 buildings to 7. It's not a comparison. That's not an alternative. It's the original plan compared to this. That was voted on by the city long before I got here, so don't blame me. 13 years before I got here. But anyway, that's it for me, and I'm trying to give him time so he can think of this question.
I'm waiting for you to take a breath.
Oh, okay. As you said, start talking. I'm talking just so he can get going. Okay.
So one of my questions is, I believe the EIR, and let me know if I'm wrong, is that can we have the investigation on how losing 30 acres of residential land in housing stock, how does that really affect City of Paris's requirements for the state requirements? And how is it affecting community development?
I can answer as well.
Yes, that's a valid comment to make.
Okay, thank you. Same thing with the commercial aspects of it, and how do they interrelate each other, and what is the economic impacts of that, along with the social impacts of that?
I wanted to piggyback off Chair Hammond's request for having the EIR be in concurrent with the new Paris specific plan. If those are done, they're going to be reflecting upon each other, right? So they're going to be both presented to us to be able to review. How can I put this? I'm trying to find my wording. I guess I'm gonna have to think about it. Just give me a minute.
I did want to just clarify, when I was thinking about the alternate route or that interim route, can we also analyze the estimated miles traveled over the difference over 10 years or 5 years and then 10 years, just in case that overpass doesn't get built? And the environmental air quality impact on those extra miles traveled within the city and the wear and tear on existing streets for industrial vehicles versus passenger vehicles over time. Thank you.
Okay, I remember now. I'd like to consider the hotspots or the increase in and the environment in the heat in regards to the concrete or asphalt from these buildings, because it's going to be, it's completely different from the original. So if we're going to do an impact report, if it were to have, you know, for example, if it were to have the green, the landscape from the golf course versus not having that anymore, what's the difference in the impact regarding the heat that it's going to attract from the sun, specifically in the summer, and how that's going to impact the temperature in that area? Because this development is big enough to make an impact, for sure. I don't believe there's a reasonable amount of trees that would be able to mitigate that impact. So we need to find out exactly what the difference would have been if we had the original with the green involved and the landscape involved, including the lake and the golf course and all that. And versus taking all of that away, and what the impact is going to be now, having the concrete walls, the asphalt, possibly the concrete flooring, because apparently they can choose which one they want from what I've heard before, asphalt or concrete. And so we can evaluate and we can read that as well and come help us make our decision as well, or questions in the future. I hope that's clear.
I almost forgot one of my favorite things, the aesthetics. Really, the aesthetics, especially traveling north on the 215, seeing a golf course in between buildings, commercial office buildings, and I know there's height limits, and the view coming into the city or leaving the city in that section, traveling on the 215, you know, we like to have, where we don't see any, when it's city, we don't want to see any trucks whatsoever, even from the freeway. So the aesthetic visibility of the buildings, it appears that Building 4 has big rig parking in the back or trailer parking in the back. So the aesthetics of that, and can we see roll-up doors? Can we see movement within the site? Same thing for Building Number 3. When I'm traveling north on the 215, what am I going to see? So aesthetics is a huge piece, and from different angles, different altitudes, houses, a commercial across the street, the residential up north, the parks, like what is the aesthetic impact of having something like this versus the original design, or alternatives to that would still fit within that without, and that would mitigate some of those aesthetics impacts.
Anything else, guys? Oh. Anything else, guys? Okay. Yeah, I think we've got quite a list there. I think a lot of it rides on several things. I think one of the things we talked about, the freeway interchange, I'm not even in, it's like the Mid-County Parkway. I'm not gonna, and I'll be quiet with that one. But you see what happened to that. So it's just not, it's one of those, what do you really measure here? And I think measuring with and without. So we measure with it, the interchange, and you measure without. And that then becomes, Murrieta becomes a hotbed. So it becomes an engineering nightmare for you. But Murrieta Road becomes an issue. And so that makes a difference when you measure that in an EIR versus measuring that freeway and interchange. That's another measurement. So what kind of, I don't think we use LOS anymore, even though we say we don't, I think we do. You know, but what kind of level would that be if you had that interchange there or not had that interchange there? Force it on the San Jacinto, which is going to have a different LOS. Okay, so now you're going to have a different issue. So that all has to be measured. What impact? It's all what ifs now. If you do this, if you do that, but that's what we're for, to ask the questions, because we have time to look at this stuff. So.
If you don't mind, I'd like to clarify with the interchange. So with the feasibility study, an interchange isn't likely anymore. It's just going to be an overcrossing.
Yeah.
Just because of environmental constraints. So you're going to be just looking at an overcrossing, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it would be a longer route to.
Yeah, it'd be more direct route for that north portion of Paris to that south portion where, you know, the Metrolink station is, or if you were trying to go down to September's, it's a more direct route.
Okay.
And we'll be analyzing the impact on that overpass with this type of development and,
Yes,
well.
yeah. It's
Okay.
going to do everything with traffic study, with the project build out,
Yeah.
cumulative effects, everything.
and with the ones that have already been approved, projects have already been approved at full capacity as well.
Yes, exactly.
And not to mention whatever cumulative impact, because the other one to the west of there has to be looked at in conjunction with this project. There's a cumulative.
Correct,
And they have
yeah.
their proposal, we're not gonna discuss what that is, but there's that one, then this one. So what is that cumulative effect between those two? Okay. Okay, I'm pretty much done. I hope you got all that. Poor Matthew's gonna be inundated. I hope you got all that, as much as we could. We tried to spell it out, and some very key points were made. And ultimately, it's you're looking at alternatives and looking at the what if happened, what if this doesn't happen. Particularly the 189, I really want to see what that impact was, what that would look like in terms of what is today. And because that has to be measured, and that's for the sake of the community. It doesn't matter what I want, it's for the sake of the community. I used to live in that area, I don't anymore. I was there before that skydive park got put in. But yeah, there's been quite a bit of things over there. And with multifamily housing, and what he really talking about, if you reduce the number of units and what impact that would have, because there were units that were part of the original one, and now you're taking away those units. That's also an arena issue too. So you're taking away potential units. How would that impact? That's a separate issue. But anyway, I'm done. And with that, we will turn it over to, what's this? We're not voting on to public comment on this agenda item. And I think we have some blue sheets. I'm still not sure what they're called, but blue sheets. And we're going to allow our secretary here, to call out the names. She's a better reader than I am. So.
Carla Cervantes.
Hi, good evening. I hope you guys are all well rested. I know last time we were here past midnight. So my name is Carla Cervantes. I live here in Paris. I did see the original plan for this project, and it wasn't these huge industrial warehouses. I think I've came here before about the same thing. Just, we don't need any more warehouses in Paris. We are just crumbling. Our infrastructure is crumbling. We can't handle the ones that we have now. So when we do see them, they're depending on the Ellis overpass in order to have all of these trucks. I also wanted to ask how this is going to affect the schools that are nearby, because during the school traffic, when they go up that road, they're going to have to be competing with industrial trucks off of that area. And coming back from the 215, I'd like to say that the Redlands exit isn't as congested as some of the other exits are. And so to add more industrial buildings to that area is just not a good idea. We will be losing all of that residential. I'll be losing a lot of the commercial, and to see that it was going to be a civic center or a cultural and arts thing, to see that it's going to be now industrial warehouses when we don't need it, it's just not a good idea at all for our city. I would like to either see it stay the original plan from the beginning, what it was, including that golf course, which also I don't like, but I'd rather have that there than giant industrial warehouses with buildings that are going to be there. And it's just a mess, and seeing that those offices that are going to be nice, it's going to be for the admin or people who are going to be at the warehouse while the warehouse workers are going to be in the heat. There are warehouses right now that are being sued because they are not abiding by labor laws, and so we don't need any type of those. We don't need any more of those types of jobs here. We need better opportunities for the city of Paris. I've said it before. I've said it again. The air quality here is a disaster. It's always been something that we struggle with just because of our topography of our land. So before it was the ports in Long Beach that, the pollution would get pushed here, but now it's a whole different thing. Now it's just the warehouse pollution. So putting another giant project or projects in this area, it's just not a good idea for us. I'm asking you guys to deny this project. Let's see what the council has to say and let it rest on them. And I just hope that you guys make the right decision for the city of Paris and your constituents and everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Joaquín Castillejos.
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Joaquin Castillejos. I'm an organizer with the Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice. We sent a letter before this evening, before this meeting with comments on this project for the scoping meeting. And I just wanted to also applaud the Planning Commission for the questions that you've been asking. I think they're important questions, considering the sensitive receptors, the use of the land, the impacts of traffic congestion, how this is going to affect GHG, how it's going to affect the visible, the aspects of the community, what folks expect versus what this project is going to bring. So I think that's super important. I just wanted to reiterate the importance of making sure that we stay in compliance with SB 330. The original plan that was approved and accepted by the city included housing units. And if these housing units are just going to be removed, where are they going to go? And I don't see anywhere on the project plan any proposal for an upzone site or anything to replace the units that are going to be taken away. I also wanted to emphasize the importance of this project to be in compliance with the Caltrans biking criteria, or like pedestrian criteria, to make sure that is something that we also included in the letter, that this plan is consistent with what Caltrans expects for biking, pedestrian, and other alternative uses besides cars. And lastly, I wanted to again reemphasize what y'all had brought up about air quality and GHG impacts. That although the analysis, talks about the analysis of GHG impacts, there's thorough analysis and mitigation of air quality and GHG impacts are still very essential, especially transportation-related ones. This project is in an area at the 70th percentile on CalEnviroscreen, and with all the warehouses that are being built just across the freeway from there, it's not, too far to expect that in the next few years it'll be in a higher percentile, and we need to take that into account, the cumulative impacts of all the development that's already happening, and how 3.8 million square feet of warehousing could just exponentially impact the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mohammed Karashi.
Good evening. The gentleman just mentioned there's going to be about 3.8 million square feet of warehousing. That was my concern. I'm building 6 homes just north of San Jacinto and Wilson.
Oh, do me a favor, just pull the mic down a little bit. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
So my main concern, and I do have warehouses in other cities, the truckers come in at all hours. Some of these owners, they say, well, we'll bring them in at night. The traffic at night, the noise is tremendous, and I'm used to it. These trailers are 53-foot trailers. For them to turn around, there's a lot of noise generated, so I don't know at what time specifically these trucks are going to come in and out, and having a residence very close by, I think is going to create some problems for at least my tenants. This is what I feel. And it, most businesses, they say, will try to do it at night, but you've got residences so close that I think it's going to impact, students that go to school in the morning. They're going to be hearing all those truck noises and, I think that should be taken into account, especially having huge warehouses, all together. So that was my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Okay.
Yeah, we don't have anybody else.
Okay. Anyone else would like to speak? You didn't have to give a blue seat, but if anyone else would like to come forward, you're welcome to come forward at this time. Sure. Just state your full name and spell your last name for us.
Hello, my name is Victoria Camarena, Camarena. Good evening. I am opposed to the new Paris Commerce Center specific plan. Residents of Paris have been speaking up for a while now about their concerns, and for the most part, it feels like those concerns are being ignored by the city. The city needs to start prioritizing the health, safety, and well-being of their residents as opposed to the interests of warehouse developers. We need a warehouse moratorium. The city needs to conduct a study on the cumulative effects of diesel emissions from all current and future industrial projects. I also don't think it's sufficient that the developer proposes to designate another area in the Green Valley Plan to accommodate the removal of residential from their project. How is it fair to leave the amount of land zoned for residential the same, but keep increasing the amount of land zoned to industrial? I urge the city to protect residents from greedy developers that only see value in our city when it comes to warehouses. The notice of preparation also stated that copies of it would be available at the Paris Library. I went today and there were no copies posted. Since the comment period is until August 26th, I think there should be copies available until the end of the comment period. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Jairo Carbajal, Carbajal. I'm here with Paris Neighbors in Action. I'll send my emails for the environmental impact report because there's no point. It would be too long to talk about it, and I won't be able to say half of those words. But I definitely in opposition to this project. I know nothing's getting voted on today, and that's fine. I'm glad it's not getting voted on until next year because I hope someone's gone, 2 people exactly. But I think this is ridiculous. It's always the same story. Can't build it. And the only reason they can't build it is because they're in the pockets of our council. So that's the same story, and I won't believe anything they say. And it's the same story. The original specific plan that I found online, that I mapped out on Google Earth, is pretty cool. Golf course is a little bit outdated, not Paris friendly. Obviously, we live in a desert. Definitely won't be good. Probably just leaving it as a trail, natural, would be pretty better. But I think this project will I think the south side of Paris is very savable still, kind of to an extent. Obviously, like the Home Depot warehouse is there. You can see it from Highway 74 from Family Basket, which is insane. And the other warehouse just went up from IDI, and they still have the preschool warehouse. Thank you, Rita Rogers, for that one. But I think the south side of Paris is definitely in need of being saved right now because we have the neighboring developer on the other side doing a rezone as well for Lewis, and that's just another commercial that we'll probably lose depending on what happens in November. And Paris is going to get messed up really bad with these warehouses, and it's already messed up, I don't see myself living here for a very long time. I do want to live here, but it's just going to depend on these next couple of years, which sucks. But, still in opposition of all these projects, whether or not they want to give. By the way, I don't know if you guys noticed, only 6,000 square feet of retail. That is insane. That is crazy. I think that's like the worst proposal I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, just for this year. To be fair, I just started this year. But either way, thank you guys and have a good night.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay. Speak now, forever hold your peace. Okay. Close the public comment and hearing on that one. I don't think we need to come back to the commission for discussion, do we? Sure. Sure.
I know we want to keep it short, but I'd like to read just two short paragraphs. And just so we can have an opportunity to just, meditate on the words. I'm going to read from the November 1989 project. The New Paris development incorporates a multi-use concept that reflects urban trends in Paris Valley. The mixed-use development concept comprises residential, commercial, office, and industrial uses. A town center, open space recreational areas, a flood control channel, extensive circulation network. Specific land use designations include the proposed development of a town center, regional retail commercial center, research and development centers, hotels, restaurants, and
Commissioner
golf course.
Gomez?
Yes.
If I may, I just want to make sure, is it related to the scoping meeting and the environmental impact report specifically?
Yes.
Do you want to preface that before
I
continuing?
can't, but I have just one paragraph left. I got permission from Chair to be able to just read it, so if that's okay. The Paris project is uniquely located in the Paris community. Thus, the specific objectives are, so I skipped a whole paragraph there. Create a development concept which provides for a balanced and integrated mix of commercial, residential, entertainment, cultural, and recreational uses on site. Coordinate for orderly development of land uses within the city and within the city's ability to supply essential public support services. Establish a town center that provides for office, professional, governmental, institutional, retail, and recreational uses. Next point, provide an area of outstanding environmental character, including a high quality of visual design, suppression of noise, protection of health and safety, and promotion of the people, city, and community. I can go on, but I would like to save the time. I would like the developer and the applicant to be able to take this into consideration, and if possible, with the alternatives in mind, have these points also included with future development. I did ask, and regarding the letters that were submitted today, I did ask, do we have to do a scope meeting, even if we already know that this probably won't be, well, it's not within the zone, first of all, within the general plan. And I was told, yes, you must have this meeting, because I know that was a question on here as well. And I do want to acknowledge that there is another letter in here that also talks about that the residents shared that they've been here since 1989 as well. Because sometimes we get the comments is like, this was already zoned this way, so people should have known better before they purchased their land or their home. Well, it sounds to me like some of them, most of them, and I'm pretty sure a bigger percentage than I can even fathom, did that before they moved here. So I would really like that to be considered as well when we move forward. I know this isn't the end. This is a proposed plan, and we're having a scope meeting for a proposed plan. There is always time for alternatives and for changes. And I want to make that very clear. And that's all I have to say.
I just wanted to just reference, because some of the emails that we received and were printed do reference the EIR, and I just want to make sure that they are mentioned, because we got 13 emails. They all have very similar. We have somebody who lived here since like 1988, 1997. Most of them have the impact on multi-family projects that were being planned there. We have the impact on aesthetics, the impacts on the parks and school recreational areas. We have impact of, I guess, resources where we have to continue to fix potholes. We have, sorry, I just want to make sure, a lot of them are repetitive. I just want to make sure I hit all the points that our residents were concerned about. The aesthetics again, destruction, impact on health and greenhouse emissions. The zoning is a big concern for most of them here. And there is, again, the temperature impact of having different types of asphalt or on the floor. Where else would it be? The different materials that are used in warehouses. And we have a lot of the impact on the transportation access. And those, I think, were the main points that were brought up by our residents in those emails. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope we got all the points. Now, I'm going to ask the city attorney, would we allow them, the developer or applicant, to say anything? Okay, if they feel they mean, we always do this. We make this a habit. If the applicant would like to make any statements on the comments or anything that you heard, you feel free to do it at this time.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank you for your time this evening in this special hearing, so thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, thank you very much. And the only other item on this agenda, unless we have, thank the staff and thank Sylvia there. She keeps it going. Oh, we didn't have the interpreter. Oh, we missed him there. Yeah, we missed him. This was a special session. We appreciate all comments. We make sure that the comments are noted, and it's definitely on YouTube tapes. So whatever's said, this is part of it. We want to make sure everyone had time to speak, and we did. I'm not sure if you have a question about that issue being posted in the library. That's a city issue, so you may want to talk afterwards, because I'm not sure what was put in the library or posted in the library. I have no idea. So you may want to take a look at that, because I didn't know that. I haven't been in the library in years. But anyway, with that, without any further ado, we will say that we are adjourned, and it's not 12 midnight. 7:27 p.m. Thank you very much. Okay.